I believe that Tammy and Steve Peters saved lives that day through that interview. And so I felt ashamed that this woman hadn't been acknowledged for that and instead had been criticized for how she decided to present herself in terms of her mascara. How do you play Tammy Faye without playing a caricature? Because you watch the trailer or you watch anything and you're like, that's crazy. Or you look at a picture and you go, that's a lot. Like someone went overboard. And then you go on YouTube and you go, huh. She actually was, that's the beautiful thing about her, is she loved it. Do you know what it was? I tried not to be too silly because I saw the sadness in her even when she was trying to make others laugh and others smile. And maybe that helped ground me in the performance. And then also Tammy loved camp. So like this idea of like, I would say, well, you know, we could make a serious movie about her. But if you the more you like look at her and study her and like read the poems she's written and like see her, I think I've seen her make fudge 4 times on you know, like how she does it. And it's always like she loves being silly and making people laugh. And she loves camp and fabulousness. And that's, I think, why so many people love her. How do we make a movie about Tammy and not include that aspect of who she was, because it's such a huge part of who she was. But we don't want to just make that film, so we also have to show like who was the little girl that kind of felt like she was never really seen.
Tammy Faye, what'd you do?
Hello, Mother. This is Jim Baker, my husband. It's all part of our mission to help people. Anyone who's hurting or they feel like they've been left out, God has a plan for us.
It's been wonderful being around people who share a common love for Tammy Faye, because I guess the thing about her that resonates with a lot of people, no matter where they're from or, you know, their identities or their backgrounds or even what country they're from, is they relate to this idea of being an underdog, you know? There's something with Tammy that really broke my heart the more that I studied her and watched her, was she just seemed so sad and lonely. And she would laugh through it and push through it, just like I guess most comedians do. A lot of comedians are really the kind of, there's a lot of sadness, and that's what makes them reach for the humor and reach for the love to make others laugh, because they don't want anyone else to feel that sadness. And so I wonder if it's the feeling of being, I think she always felt like she wanted to be part of the group. She wanted to be connected to others. And if she ever felt on the outside, it made her feel quite sad and lonely. And so she empathized with others who society put on the outside.
The Bible explicitly forbids homosexuality. There's no gray area.
Well, you know, I don't think of them as homosexuals. I just think of them as other human beings that I love. You know, we're all just people made out of the same old dirt. And God didn't make any junk.
I was on the press tour for Zero Dark 30, and I stumbled upon the documentary on television. I was jet-lagged somewhere. And I watched the documentary, and I think I'd seen it. I'm not quite, my memory's a bit off on this. I don't know if I'd seen bits of it before, but I remember just, it hit me in a different way that evening, because I just felt so shocked by my memory of her conflicting with who she was. And I realized my memory with her was not of her. My memory of Tammy Faye as a child growing up was what the media created. It was what, you know, the satire comedy shows created, and, you know, pictures on the cover of tabloid magazines, and this kind of thing that I was fed, and I then believed it to be true. And so that really confused me, this idea of, wait a minute, let me go back and now study this. So it had a profound effect on me. The Steve Peters interview, to me, was the reason why the film had to be made. I felt so sad that I knew all about her mascara. I knew all about all of that stuff, and everyone was talking so much about her makeup, but no one was talking about the fact that in 1985, when politicians don't even want to mention AIDS, and people are dying, Tammy Faye went against the conservative evangelical community, and she brought Steve Peters onto her show as an openly gay minister with AIDS, and she looked into her camera to her millions of Christian followers, and she reminded them what it means to be Christian, and that you love through anything. And not only did she talk about what is your experience like when people are shunning you because they're afraid of you with AIDS and how sad that is, and we should put our arms around you and love you. She talked about what was it like coming out to your parents. And when he said that his parents loved him no matter what, she like broke down in tears, and she says, oh good, like that's so wonderful because we as mommies and daddies love through anything, and that's the way with Jesus. And to have millions of people watching that, who I'm sure were confronting their own issues in their family in terms of like, couldn't they really be themselves? I believe that Tammy and Steve Peters saved lives that day through that interview. And so I felt ashamed that this woman hadn't been acknowledged for that and instead had been criticized for how she decided to present herself in terms of her mascara.
And have you found it to be true that people want to stay away and that they're afraid to be in the same room as you and breathe the same air that you breathe?
Yes, Tammy.
And how sad is that? That we as Christians, who are supposed to love everyone, are afraid so badly of an AIDS patient that we will not go up to them and put our arm around them and tell them that we care.
This is an interesting film because I wear two hats in it. I'm a producer and I'm an actress. And at one point I realized they were both working in the opposition of the other, because once it got to the point, I mean, I was terrified to do the singing. I'd never done that before, and I was so embarrassed and nervous, and I felt so exposed. The accent, the way her voice is, like, my voice is pretty deep, but her voice is so high. Like, there's so much about her that is different than how I present myself in the world, and it just felt like so exposing and so nerve-wracking. That for these 7 years, I really studied her, before the 7 years before we got to set, and I read all of the books, and I listened to her albums, and I watched all of her YouTube interviews, anything I could find on YouTube. And the documentary filmmakers gave me hundreds of hours of unused footage that I studied. So I really had the material to study. And by the time that it looked like the film, I was like, okay, we're greenlit, we're going. I realized the actor was trying to sabotage the picture, because as much as I really wanted it to happen, all of a sudden as an actress, I was like, I'm not ready. Like, I need more time, no. And I was doing like little tiny things to be like to make it more difficult to make the film when they wanted to make it. And at one point I got, on the phone with one of the heads of the studios, and I was begging for more prep time. Even after 7 years, I didn't feel like I had enough. And he's like, okay, I'll give you 3 more days. I was like, no, I need more. But it really was a situation where someone kind of had to push me out of the nest to see if I could do it, because I wasn't gonna jump. I was too scared. There was a lot of conversations about Tammy's makeup, because that's what we all grew up learning about her and knowing about her is, why did she wear so much makeup? That's what the media kept feeding us. It's obscene, it's to the extreme, and now she's tattooing her face with all this makeup. Well, what's the point? What is she hiding? What is this mask? And, when we first started developing the project, that was the angle, I guess. It feels weird to say the angle, but this thought of the woman behind the mask. And then the more I started to learn about her, and also learn about drag, drag is not a mask, it's a revealing. You're not hiding, you're showing who you are inside, how you feel. It's a creative, it's a beautiful art form. It's a creative self-expression, how you present yourself in the world. And it's unique and it's authentic, and it is special because it is only you. You're creating your own art piece about how you feel. And so for me, I found that incredibly moving. This idea that this woman is so unique and one of a kind, and society kept trying to change her and to make her smaller, to make her more pleasing by not being so wild and not being so loud and not being so bold with her self-expression. And she got to the point where she's like, I'm just gonna tattoo it on me so no one could ever change me. And I find that really inspiring.
Have you never done pictures without those eyelashes?
Nope, and I never will, because that's my trademark. And you know, if I take that away, then it's not me. And no one's gonna wanna look at me without my trademark, so I hold on to that.
Even if we soften them up
No.
and kept...
No, you can do anything you want, but my eyelashes stay right where they are.
That's really you.
Oh yeah, this is who I am.
My preparation for singing was bourbon. I'm not even gonna lie. I was so scared that, and I think I even tweeted about it. What would it have been? It would have been 2019, I think in the fall. Right before the pre-records. I was working with Dave Cobb, and it was the night before I was losing my mind. So I've never done that before. I was just like, I need to drink because I'm so freaked out. And I called, I was like, I need some throat coat tea with some bourbon, please. So it was medicinal purposes, but that's actually what really helped me kind of like get beyond it. Also, Tammy, and the reason why, she isn't someone who can she was never subtle in a song, like slowly moving into a song and having a lot of variation in her voice and whispery. She's someone who, ministered through song. And that's a lot of places starting out with no microphone system. So on that first note, she's calling up to Jesus. She's at an 11 from the moment she starts singing the song, and she just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and louder and louder. And for a shy, reserved person, it's a nightmare. but I mean, I had to do it. I had to do it. Oh my God. No, I sang on set. And you can tell because there's a scene where I'm nervous, Tammy's nervous, and I watching, I'm like, yeah, that note's flat. Like, I can hear it, which is good because then people know it's live. Because when it's not, they can, even when it's live, I think they can, I don't know. I think they have media that can do anything now, but it was important that it feel realistic. And when someone is nervous, I don't think they should sound like perfect. And so yeah, there was also bourbon in the live scenes while I was shooting. Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher. This is such a difficult answer or question to answer in terms of the award buzz and stuff that everyone talks about at this time of year. And it's difficult because there are pros and cons, to all of this. The beautiful things about all of the buzz is that hopefully people will see the film. That to me is the most exciting thing, because if I've spent so much of my time away from my family, so much of my time I've made this a priority, I would love for it to move someone. I'd love for it to have a reaction somewhere. It doesn't have to be that they love it. It can be provocative. They can feel challenged by it. They can feel like they really didn't like it and then in a few years maybe revisit it. Or I just want that kind of communication with others. So that's a positive. And also the positive thing that I love is I get invited to a bunch of events with other performers that I really admire, and especially actresses. And this is an industry that really doesn't bring actresses together so much unless you force it to happen. That to me is pretty great, because that's actually how I've made a lot of friendships over the years, and then just decided there are people I've met through these kind of experiences that then I went on to we have to find more projects together, or a project together. And so those are both really the positive things. A negative aspect of it is it's the last thing you want to think about, because it just, for me, sometimes I just feel so, I don't know. I this whole, the idea of a competition just feels so bizarre. And so I like this idea of a celebration of everyone's work, and this idea that what everyone does in their particular films and performances is unique to them, and only they could have done it, And that's something that I think should be celebrated. The very last day we ended with the puppets, kind of the montage of me singing like, you know, I'm Susie Moppet, and then like Allie the alligator and like all of that silliness. That's how we ended, which was a beautiful way to end. And I was so sad that last day because, and I felt this a couple times with characters, I just like was sad to say goodbye to her because I'm gonna get emotional talking about it, but I never got to meet her. I've met her family and I've met like people that have been influenced and moved and supported by what she believed and what she preached, but I never actually got the experience of like sitting in a room with her. And I felt such a responsibility, not just to her, but also to this idea of like, we as a society did something wrong. And I felt a responsibility that we needed to right that wrong. And so I was sad that last day because it was like, it was the closest I could have been to meeting her, was like, in some sense, you know, wearing her hopes and dreams and fears and all of that. And when you walk in someone else's shoes, you really feel like you know them in a different kind of way. It's interesting, you see this film and, you know, at the end there's these two realities, you know? And I think about the world we live in. And Tammy preached one way, you know, this unconditional love and that everyone is deserving of love and has a right to be acknowledged, you know? And then Jerry Falwell preached kind of the opposite. And there were like these two paths we could have gone down. And unfortunately, we didn't go down the Tammy Faye path in terms of like this country, in terms of where we are as a society. And so I think also for me, the final scene of the film is really an important scene and a beautiful scene because it's like Tammy's idea of what the world could be in like stark comparison of what the world is. And we end in her, I guess, her vision and her dreams. And I guess also that's a hopeful way of saying it's not too late.